I'm going to go through this one kind of just straight through and just kind of talk about the things that stand out to me. So the first thing is when it says the kingdom of heaven is likened to a king who would take an account of his servants. I think that's a reminder of just that we will be called to judgment of the life we lived. We have to remember that. Remember that is going to happen. And then when he talks about the debt, the 10,000 talents that was not able to be paid, and I think that just reminds me of the fact that the debt of sin, the price of original sin, we never were able to pay that through many covenants, through God's many attempts. Humans ultimately failed, and Jesus took on that payment, right? That's God's mercy. And he himself took on the debt and forgave us. And I think that that's what we're seeing here is just God's mercy in forgiving the debt. In a real way, that also reminds me of confession. When we go to confession, we basically come forth and say, I've committed these sins and I need forgiveness, because we don't have the power to reconcile our sin. It comes through the sacrament of confession. Going forth, the servant that was forgiven goes to his own fellow servant that owed him 100 pence and basically shook him down and said, "Where's my money?" That reminds me of sometimes when we go to confession, or sometimes when we come to Christ, maybe not necessarily confession, just, we've fallen away and to whatever extent, and we come back, we forget about what Christ has done for us. And we forget that we should be transformed by that. When we go to confession, we not only just, confess our sins, we hope and ask for God's grace to be instilled in us to be able to be transformed. And I think sometimes we forget that. We think that it's like, all right, debt's done, we're clear, we're even, we're good, and then go and act the same. Or even that same sin that we struggle with, we go back and do it again. And this is a reminder to be transformed by that, because a servant was just received mercy, forgot to give it also, to be like the Lord, and for us to be like Jesus, to give that mercy. The other thing is, I like that it uses the word patience. Patience. God is very patient with us. When we think of the weight of sin, it's a lot. That is a huge weight. God is gracious to be patient with us, to allow us to be reconciled to him. We've wronged him in so many ways, yet he patiently waits. And I think about how many times I haven't been patient enough, whether small or big things. And so there's a call there to be more patient as well. The last thing is the situation with the other servants. They saw him and the way he acted with this debt, and they were all grieved, and they went and told the Lord what happened, and then eventually he got his punishment. I think what that makes me think of is, in the joy of the gospel, there's this line, I'm probably paraphrasing at this point, but it's basically talking about being sour-faced saints, something like that. The idea, the joy of the gospel, is that our lives should reflect that joy. When God gives us mercy, we should reflect that same mercy. And I think about how this would be different, how it would have played out differently had the servant been merciful also. Maybe it would have moved these other servants to be merciful also. And that does have that same effect. When we live our lives for the gospel, a reflection of the gospel, other people are drawn into that. And I think that's one of the most powerful evangelization tools. The witness of a life actually transformed by the gospel, by God's grace, by God's mercy. Because in that way, we become like Christ in the world, and people see that and are drawn to it, and drawn to discover what it is that makes you that way. And so I think with all that combined, I think it does boil down to that one thing, that I think what God's really speaking to my heart is, where are you failing to be a reflection of Christ in the world? And to kind of grow in that, I think I need to take a step back, reflect on the way that God has worked in my life and recall that, to allow myself to better instill that into the way that I live my life. And in doing so, be able to bring others to Christ. Simply by that, something very small like that. I say small, but it's a pretty big undertaking. That's my reflection on this reading. I will leave it there. If you have any thoughts, reflections of your own, go ahead and drop those in the comments below. And then last but not least, go ahead and like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel and then hit the notification bell to be notified when these go out. Again, they go out every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern. And then it would greatly help if this blessed you, that you could share it with other people that you know who may be blessed by it as well. On that note, have a joyful and blessed Sunday. Thank you for listening, and God bless.